Hey guys, this is Sandy. I'm a licensed realtor here in the Central Florida area, and I network a lot all across the states and countries too. So here we are. I want to do a video for you today on how to break a residential lease legally, and this is going to be pertaining to the United States. I have no idea how leases work in Canada and in England. Even though I have clients that are buying in this area, I have no idea what happened to your country. So this is for the US only. All right, so we all know you rent a property, long-term property, you get a lease. The lease are sometimes very tight knot, meaning it's normally a 12-month lease or a 3-month lease or a 6-month lease. Basically, most of the leases are going to say if you decide to break the lease, there are going to be consequences. Some leases will say you're gonna, even no matter when you break the lease, you're gonna have to pay the rest of the rent. Other leases might say if you break the lease, you're gonna have to pay 2 months up front before you could break the lease. Others might say if you break the lease, you're gonna have to pay the rent until we're able to find someone else to get in the property. So these are some of the reasons why people don't like breaking a lease, or it's so hard to break a lease because it could follow you. It could follow behind you and mess you up when you want to rent somewhere else. So how can I legally break a lease? What are some of the things that could happen that would force me to have to break a lease if I had to? Now, I'm not talking about breaking a lease because you don't like the place anymore, you don't like the area, you found a cheaper rent or whatever it is. In those cases, you may have to just suck it up and wait until the lease expires. But there are situations where you're able to legally break a lease with no consequences. The first one is rules of entry and harassment, meaning most leases will say the landlord has to give you 24 hours notice if they want to come in to do a repair or to check or whatever it is they're coming to do. If the landlord consistently enter your property or the place you're renting without your knowledge, or if you find that it's getting harassing and you don't have enough notice that they're coming, then that may be a reason, believe it or not, to break the lease. That, like, you could go to court and actually get the lease broken if you feel the landlord is harassing you, or if you feel the landlord is entering the premises without your permission, or they're not giving you enough notice to enter. Now, if it's an emergency, because the lease will state if it's an emergency, the landlord have the right to get in the property. So we're talking about non-emergency situations where the landlord just come and go as they please. If you're in a situation like that, then legally you're able to break the lease. The second thing is for active military personnel. So there's an act called the Service Member Civil Relief Act, SCAR, and this means if you're actively in the military and you get orders to leave for more than 90 days, as long as you could show the landlord this in writing, you need to give the landlord 30-day notice that, hey, I've been deployed, I'm not going to be here anymore, and I'm going to be gone for more than 90 days, then the landlord has no option but to break the lease because it's under the Military Relief Act. Another one is domestic violence. So if you are in a domestic relationship, if you're in a relationship and you're going through domestic violence, then obviously, and there's a restraining order of some kind, then that would be grounds to break the lease, because some states, some jurisdiction will allow you to break a lease if domestic violence is involved. So which means two parties are living together, there's domestic violence, one don't want to leave, the other one got to go, the two people are on the lease and they need income from both people to pay the lease, then you could have reasons to break.
Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07-791-4713.
Release that way. Another one is maybe you're renting a property that's illegal. So maybe it's not a legal, like maybe you're renting an apartment and it's not a legal apartment to rent, or the landlord shouldn't be renting it. A lot of times this happens in basements in New York. I used to live in New York for a long time. So in states with basements like New York, Connecticut, Jersey, all those areas, a lot of times the landlord will finish the basement and rent it, but it's not really a legal basement. So in those events, if you have a lease on a basement apartment and it's not a legal basement apartment and you find out and you want to break the lease for that reason, you can, because legally the landlord cannot go to court to say you break the lease because it's not a legal entity. Same thing with apartments. There are some apartments, sometimes they convert these broom closets, literally, into apartments to rent to people, and it's not a legal space. So if it's not a legal space, then you have the right to break the lease. Now, in my, my way of work, or in my little field of work, most of the time people want to break the lease because they're renting, but then they found somewhere to rent, they found an apartment, somewhere to buy, they found a home they want to buy, and they're kind of stuck in the lease, and they're like, oh my god, I really want to buy this home, but my lease doesn't end until in 6 months, and that kind of stuff. So in those situations, I always advise my clients to talk with the landlord. Maybe they might give you, maybe they give you a relief. Maybe they might say, well, if you allow me to show the apartment, if you're going to be buying a home and the home is going to be closing in 2 months, and you allow me to show the apartments in this 2-month period, and I'm able to get a tenant, then I would break the lease. Some landlords are lenient like that. However, if you're looking to buy a home and you found a home and you want to move, and you're telling the landlord you want to leave, and you're in a lease, and you don't want to give the landlord any right to show the home to get it rented, then that's not going to work, right? So we have landlords that will do that. A lot of the bigger corporate, like rental developments, rental apartments, those the big ones that they're coming up with now, most of the time they will allow you to break the lease if you pay 2 months in advance. So if you pay 2 months rent in advance from the time you leave the property, they will allow you to do that as well. Now, there are times when people have emergency, like a family death, and they have to relocate and all that great stuff. Sometimes the landlord will be lenient based upon the evidence you give them. If you give them the evidence why you need to break the lease, what's happening and what's going on, some may be lenient to allow you to break the lease, or sometimes they'll allow you to get somebody else to take the lease over from you. So sometimes they'll say, okay, you could come and say, hey, I have a person here that is willing to take the lease over, would you allow it? As long as the landlord qualifies that person, and there's another way of kind of breaking the lease, because you'll get somebody else to take the lease over from you, and then make sure though that the lease goes in their name. So you don't want someone to just say, hey, I'll take over your payments, I'll move in your apartment, don't worry, I'll take care of it. You want to make sure your name is not involved, because if that person defaults, you're on the hook, not them, because your name is still on the lease. But these are some ways that you could break the lease. Don't think if you're in a domestic violence situation and you're in a lease that you have to stick to it, because no, a lot of jurisdiction will give you the ability to be able to break that lease. If you feel like your landlord is harassing you, or is entering the premises without permission, or too frequently, or there's no emergency but you're still entering the property, then that could also be a way of you leaving as well. Okay, so I hope this helps. If you have any questions for us, number should be up here. You could give us a call, send us a text. We could set up a call with you, or a Zoom call with you, if you are going through any said situation. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I will see you on the next video.
Need to buy or sell fast? Make one call, that's all. And put our 23 years of experience to work for you. Gift Group Sells Homes is the way to go. Call for 07 791 4713.